can write a song anywhere," Brad Arnold once said, describing how lyrics found him in flower beds, backyards, and ordinary moments of work. That simple statement captures the spirit of a songwriter who never separated art from life. In early 2026, the rock world experienced a wave of shock and reflection as rumors, fear, and speculation spread rapidly across the internet, forcing fans to confront how deeply Brad's voice mattered to them. It wasn't the loss of a man, but the sudden realization of his humanity that created the silence. People paused, revisited old songs, and felt the weight of lyrics they once sang casually. The moment became a reminder that behind every anthem is a real person carrying unseen burdens. Brad Arnold's story at its core is not about tragedy, but about presence, resilience, and the importance of honoring artists while they are still here. The everyman voice of a generation. For nearly 3 decades, Brad Arnold has stood as one of the most recognizable voices in American rock music. Even those who never learned his name knew the sound, a raw, grounded delivery that felt honest rather than theatrical. 3 Doors Down didn't rely on spectacle or controversy to connect with audiences. Instead, their power came from relatability. Brad sang like someone who understood doubt, insecurity, and quiet hope, making listeners feel less alone. His voice carried strength without arrogance and vulnerability without weakness. That balance is rare, and it's why the band became a defining presence for fans who grew up in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Brad wasn't trying to be larger than life. He was simply himself, and that authenticity turned ordinary rock songs into deeply personal experiences for millions of people across the world. Songs that became emotional anchors. Few bands can claim that their music became emotional anchors for an entire generation, but 3 Doors Down achieved exactly that. Songs like It's Not My Time evolved beyond radio hits into personal mantras for people facing illness, loss, distance, and uncertainty. Brad Arnold wrote lyrics that didn't promise easy victories, but offered reassurance through honesty. He acknowledged fear while still pointing toward hope, a combination that made listeners trust him. Over time, fans attached their own stories to his words, playing these songs during moments of vulnerability and strength alike. That connection transformed music into memory. Brad's songwriting worked because it never talked down to the listener. It stood beside them. Even today, those songs continue to carry meaning, reminding people of who they were, what they survived, and how music can quietly hold someone together when words fail. The weight behind the spotlight. From the outside, Brad Arnold's life appeared like a dream realized. Sold-out tours, global recognition, and crowds singing every word back to him. Yet the transition from small-town life in Mississippi to international fame carried a cost few could truly understand. The relentless cycle of touring, expectations, and isolation placed enormous pressure on the band, especially on Brad as the frontman. Fame amplified everything: success, stress, and silence alike. When the lights went down and the applause faded, the emptiness of hotel rooms and long travel days often grew louder. Brad carried the responsibility of being the steady face of the band, even as life behind the scenes became increasingly complex. This contrast between public triumph and private strain is common in the music industry. But Brad bore it quietly, determined to keep showing up for his fans no matter the personal toll. Loss, survival, and responsibility. As the years passed, 3 Doors Down faced heartbreaking internal losses that reshaped its foundation. Brad watched close friends and original bandmates struggle with personal demons, legal consequences, and ultimately, absence. These experiences left him as the emotional anchor of the band's legacy, carrying not just success, but memory and grief. Being the one still standing brought responsibility few could prepare for. Brad was no longer just making music, he was protecting a shared history. The pressure to honor what once was, while still moving forward, weighed heavily on him. Survival, in this context, wasn't just physical, it was emotional. Yet Brad continued, not because it was easy, but because the music still mattered. His persistence reflected loyalty to his bandmates, to the fans, and to the journey that began long before fame ever arrived. Addiction and the choice to reclaim life. Like many artists navigating loss and pressure, Brad Arnold faced his own struggles with alcohol, a battle he has spoken about with honesty and humility. At one point, he became what the industry often labels a functioning alcoholic, able to perform flawlessly while privately unraveling. Alcohol became a way to numb physical exhaustion and emotional pain. A courageous and graceful final chapter. In his final chapter, Brad Arnold faced his circumstances with openness and dignity. Rather than withdrawing completely, he allowed fans to remain connected through honesty and gratitude. The band's statement emphasized peace rather than pain, focusing on the comfort of being surrounded by loved ones. This approach mirrored how Brad lived, with quiet courage and acceptance. He didn't seek sympathy. He offered perspective. By facing adversity without bitterness, he left behind a powerful example of grace under pressure. For many fans, this was as impactful as his music. It reminded people that strength can be gentle and that facing life honestly, even at its hardest moments, is a form of leadership that lasts far beyond the stage. An outpouring of love from around the world. Following the announcement, social media quickly filled with tributes from fellow musicians, public figures, and fans across the globe. Comment sections became shared spaces of memory, gratitude, and reflection. People recounted first concerts, meaningful lyrics, and moments when Three Doors Down's music helped them through difficult times. The response highlighted just how far Brad Arnold's influence reached. He wasn't just a voice on the radio. He was part of people's personal histories. The messages weren't about fame or awards, but about connection. That collective response demonstrated the true measure of his impact. When someone's work becomes woven into so many lives, their absence is felt deeply, but their presence never truly disappears. Respect, privacy, and gratitude. In closing their statement, the band and Brad's family expressed heartfelt thanks for the overwhelming support while also requesting privacy during a deeply personal time. This balance of openness and boundaries reflected the values Brad lived by. He believed in sharing meaning, not spectacle. Fans largely respected this request, choosing to honor him through remembrance rather than intrusion. The moment served as a reminder that behind every public figure is a human being with loved ones who grieve quietly. By responding with compassion, the community honored not just Brad's music, but his character. Gratitude became the dominant tone. Gratitude for the songs, the memories, and the moments of comfort his voice had provided over the years. A legacy that will continue to echo. Though Brad Arnold may be gone, his legacy remains firmly alive in the music he created and the lives he touched. Every time a Three Doors Down song plays, his voice continues its work, offering comfort, strength, and familiarity. His story reminds us that meaningful art doesn't come from perfection, but from honesty and heart. Brad showed that a song written by a teenager can grow into a lifelong companion for millions. His impact will continue to echo through speakers, memories, and shared experiences for generations to come. In remembering him, fans aren't just mourning a loss. They are celebrating a life that gave more than it ever asked for, and a voice that will never truly fade.